iHeartRadio and KFI Radio, Mo Kelly from The Mo Kelly Show. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you happen to be. It's always good to talk to you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't almost know where to start. I mean, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to table the Biden question as to what's going to happen with Joe Biden and what the potential scenarios are and what narrative makes the most sense, just so that I can sort of button out what we've seen this week at the Republican National Convention. Albert, did you have a little bit of the Trump speech, or what video do I still have with you on that? I wanted to play a little bit for Mo.
Yes, I have some of the Trump speech. Let me just pull that up. Give me like 1 minute.
So Mo, his speech was, I was saying in the first hour, and please feel free to disagree with it, I was saying that they really curated a fairly solid RNC. I thought it was, look, we can say in this audience, or I can say, hey, I don't particularly like, any of those characters. When I see Peter Navarro and Matt Gaetz and these people who I just find sort of loathsome figures, but that's me personally. I mean, certainly the Republican Party is showing, hey, these are some of our stars, and they have important messages. So we met J.D. Vance this week, et cetera. So there was that, and then there was the question of sticking the landing with the former president. Maybe give me a thought on how you felt it unfolded, and then we'll get to Trump's speech itself.
Well, big picture, if there's what it was designed to do and did it deliver. A convention, an RNC convention, is a pep rally. It's about generating interest, creating excitement, hopefully exciting the donor base, and then unifying the party behind the ticket. That's what it's designed to do. That's the purpose of it. In that regard, it was all of that. If anything, we can be snarky and say, yeah, they unify behind the one person and it's a cult, and that's not wrong. But the purpose of the convention is to send off that ticket, if you will, like after graduation, and make sure that everyone supports him and them. And to that end, it accomplished that. Now, to what degree, we'll find out as far as how much of a polling bump the ticket may get. We'll find out as whether they'll get a donor bump, whether they really can fundraise behind it. And that will be the true measurement of how well the RNC performed. But as far as production goes, as far as optics goes, as far as providing a vehicle and launch pad for Donald Trump, I can't even say J.D. Vance because during the speech, I only mentioned him maybe once in passing. He really did not define the ticket. It was all about Donald Trump, the individual. But we'll see how well the rest of the political world will respond to it going on.
It struck me, I was saying in the first hour, Mo, that, he came on, I think you carried his remarks on your show. He came on live. So on the West Coast, it wasn't late. It was 7:30 or something. But on the East Coast, where most people are, it was 10:30. And he spent a half hour running through his assassination, which I thought was a great way to start. I thought he could have told the story perhaps more succinctly. It was almost a frame-by-frame breakdown of what happened. But he tells it in the way he tells it, in the Trumpian way. But now you're a half hour in, and he still went for another hour. Most of those people on the East Coast, I'm thinking, are going to sleep, aren't they?
They may have, but let's not forget, this is the only time any candidate, any elected official would have ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, PBS, C-SPAN, all televising this address and not breaking away. There's no other way or no other opportunity for him to have that type of coverage. And whereas any other time he give a speech, MSNBC may not carry it at all, or they'll drop in and then they'll drop out. He had a captive audience, as they say, and he used it to its maximum. Now, we can go back and forth about whether he lost audience along the way, but to his diehard faithfuls, we know that most people were tuning in at least at the beginning. He got on the stage at around 7:35 Pacific, which means 10:35 East Coast time. Yeah, I'm quite sure he held him for at least an hour. I think so.
Okay. Play a little bit, if you would, Albert, of Trump's speech last night, and then we'll get to Biden and his future.
4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Together, we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning.
This was a tone that we heard we were going to get, which was one of unity. And he started that way. And then he went to crazy Nancy Pelosi. The Democrats used COVID to steal the election. Iran. Do you have that, Albert? I think I sent you the timestamp on it. But I mean, he goes into the Iran thing and how Iran's now rising. He's the one who pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. It's just this weird. Go ahead. I'll just play a little bit. Albert.
Result that we'll never let happen again. The election result, we're never going to let that happen again. They used COVID to cheat. We're never going to let it happen again. And they took off all the sanctions and they did everything possible for Iran. And now Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon, which would have never happened. This is a shame what this administration, the damage that this administration has done. And I say it often, if you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once. Biden. I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. Together we will restore vision, strength, competence, and we're going to have a thing called common sense making most of our decisions, actually. It's all common sense.
I was saying before, Mo, that he really felt as though, to me, he was a guy who felt, I've got this. Especially because of the ad-libbing he was doing. It felt like a stump speech. You felt like this is a guy who knows he's ahead and feels it.
More than that, I think there were two speeches. There was the speech that was on the teleprompter, to your point, Mark, and also stuff that he just wanted to say. And even though tonality, it was one of unity and reconciliation at the beginning, he couldn't help himself but, defer to who he is. And he could not get out of his way in that regard. Now, when you have those cuts, which are going to be clips, which are going to be cut up and sent to the networks, you'll have the tonality and the reconciliation clips and the muted Trump, which will be on Fox, and everyone else will be showing all the craziness and the unhinged portion of the speech, and people are going to take away from that what they want. My takeaway is I don't think he reached any independents and moderates. I think his base is his base. And yes, the momentum is squarely with him, but it's not determinative. I can give you all sorts of historical examples. Like Jimmy Carter was leading by some 6 points in the weeks before the election. We all know how that turned out. We know that 1968, Hubert Humphrey was winning by 5 points in July, right around the convention, on the heels of the RFK and MLK assassinations. He lost. So what is happening right now, it's informative, it's instrumental, but it's not determinative. And this race has not been decided.
So now to that broader point then, let's talk about what's happening with Joe Biden. I mean, the drumbeat is so loud, Mo. It's from high-profile Democrats, from Pelosi to Obama. I don't know how you beat that back if you're Joe Biden. This is clearly a party that feels at the highest levels, and these are keen politicians, that they're looking at numbers. I always get emails, I was saying in comments here, and stop focusing on the polls, and they're focusing on polls. They're focusing on the litmus test that they're doing in swing states that show them as far as 8 points behind. So what could possibly be the future for Joe Biden given these facts and given the fact that he seems to have lost the party on some level?
Two
Can you
things.
speak to the future?
One,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe Biden knows the history that I just told you as well as anyone. So he's not necessarily going to be swayed by, well, the polls say that you're 8 points behind. He can rattle off that same history and say, this race hasn't been decided. What's different here is he has lost the party. He has the prominent leaders and presidents of the past. We haven't heard from Bill Clinton, but we heard from Barack Obama in this whisper campaign, where he's not standing shoulder to shoulder with the leaders of the party like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and they're saying hand in hand, this is our guy. And so you can't resurrect a candidacy or come from behind if you don't have the party behind you. And also that means you don't have the donor party behind you. All this money is going to dry up if it's true that he's lost a party and lost the support. He can't continue his candidacy without the financial support of others. And when you have Democratic leadership coming out and saying that we're not supporting him, that means he's lost a donor class as well.
Albert, you want my audio up? Is that what you were saying? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt this conversation.
Yeah, just a little bit. It sounds good right now.
Is that better? Okay, good. I wanted to then share this with you from Human F Being. Biden said this morning he's not stepping down. The doubters just need to shut the F up. They aren't helping. There's a lot of that you'll find, particularly on this show, Mo. I get a lot of it, which is shut up and stop talking about how Biden needs to step down and how people are. There is, I think, among those who support Biden or fear Trump, and again, there's a lot of overlap in those Venn diagrams. There's a lot of stop talking about this. But what you've just said is powerful, which is, yeah, but the party that he's supposed to lead and the donors who are supposed to support him, they seem to have disconnected from his campaign future.
But these things, two things can be true. And the people who are saying, shut up, they're not wrong. And here's why they're not wrong. Because we had a primary season and overwhelmingly Joe Biden was determined. He was chosen by the voters. Yes, it was pushed in his direction. They rearranged the primary schedule to favor Joe Biden. The same party leaders who are questioning Joe Biden now were making sure that other people did not get in the race some 6-7 months ago. So the party is about the party. The question, or I should say the issue that the Democrats have now is if it looks like people are pushing out Joe Biden, and it does, then you have a convention where it feels like all their votes did not matter during the primaries, the person that they chose, right, wrong, or indifferent. And then you're having the quote unquote elites or the people who are like the super delegates of before and party people like Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi deciding who will be the nominee purely on the speculation of what the polls say. And that would be anti-democratic small d.
The Biden word today, of course, he has COVID, and I was saying that he could pivot on the COVID to get out of the race, say that the doctors tell him he's not strong enough to go on. But it is true that he's saying, no, I'm not going anywhere. Meantime, Trump expected to speak with Zelensky today, and that's a weird thing because you'll remember that phone call that he had with Zelensky that led to the impeachment hearings, So you end up with, the one candidate in Joe Biden essentially being sidelined by the COVID-19 and also being surrounded by these sorts of questions. There's a cloud about his future. The other having just come off this, if you will, I mean, I thought it was a stem winder of a speech and it went on forever. But as you say, it animated his base. They heard what they wanted to hear, and he's coming off what I'm sure they feel is a successful convention. Now he meets with Zelensky. He mentioned Viktor Orban in his speech. I was astounded by that. Viktor Orban is an authoritarian, straight up. I mean, that is the kind of the velvet fist that I think America is being fitted for, that velvet glove. Speak to these parallel tracks. One guy's sidelined, the other guy is trying to play the statesman.
Yeah, my problem with the Democrats, and just for full disclosure, I'm a registered independent, so I'm just giving analysis here. My problem with the Democrats is they're playing by rules which no longer exist. They're expecting norms to be respected, which are no longer respected. There was once upon a time, it used to be there was only one president at a time, and you didn't have political candidates meeting with other world leaders. That was the issue with Ronald Reagan and the Iran hostage crisis. That was an issue with Nixon and the Vietnam War, politicking behind the scenes. But those expectations are gone. Now, with the Democrats, they are trying to fight by rules which don't exist. You have Joe Biden, who is respecting the norms, where the party who is not having the convention, they're supposed to tamp down their campaigning. They're not supposed to advertise during the other team's convention, and they're respecting those norms. And then you have Donald Trump and Republicans completely ignoring them. The Democrats, they're going to have to learn how to play by the new rules of today, even though in an optic sense, it's not who they want to be.
You know, one of the great candidates who never achieved, I think it was gamed against him without question on the Democratic side, is Bernie Sanders. Albert, do you have the Bernie Sanders thing that I sent you this morning? I'd love for you to run that. Because I thought, and I think, Sanders, and he's older now than he was the last time he ran, obviously, but I think Sanders speaks in the way that punches through and cuts through. And in so doing, he's able to communicate these things that Biden, it seems, is unable to communicate. He doesn't speak clearly. He doesn't cut through. Do you have it, Albert, or is it?
I'm waiting for this ad to play. Sorry.
Okay. Here is Jane saying this with a $50 super chat. Wow, this is really cool. First of all, thank you.
Big shout out.
Gina, we're a crowd-funded show here, Mo, so I'm begging for money all the time. Let me just quickly mention Bernie Sanders talking with Stephen Colbert about the difference between Biden and Trump. It grasps the reason why a vote for Trump is the worst. This is great, Jane, and I'll tell you what, I'll run that next week. But this is this morning, so this is only hours old. Bernie Sanders on Morning Joe. Go ahead and run a little bit of this, please.
For Biden to step aside. In a new interview with The New Yorker, the Vermont Independent doubled down on wanting Biden to stay in the race. And Senator Sanders joins us now. So, Senator, given the growing calls and whispers, loud whispers from very big names in Democratic circles, isn't that causing a lot of destruction on the Democratic side?
Yeah, look,
and opening the door for Donald Trump? I mean, is Joe Biden, we know he's fit for the presidency. Is he fit to run, or should he step aside?
Well,
are
you
you
I got to
thinking
say
about it at
something.
all?
If I may, in all due respect to my friends in the media, we might want to concentrate on what President Biden has accomplished, which is probably the strongest record for working families in the modern history of this country. And then we might want to talk about why people should vote for him and why, in my view, if he runs, he is going to be reelected. He has an agenda, we don't talk about it in the media much, that speaks to the needs of working families who have been ignored for decades. So when I go out and I tell people that President Biden wants to expand Social Security by asking the wealthy to start paying their fair share of taxes so we can increase benefits by $2,400 a year, people say, that's great. And when I say President Biden wants to expand Medicare so that we can cover dental, hearing, and vision, I know the media, these guys make a lot of money, not much interest in that. But if you're a senior who can't afford to go to a dentist, that means a lot. And if you have cancer, or have had cancer treatment, and you went bankrupt, or you lost your home because of the outrageous cost, President Biden wants to end all medical debt in this country. He has a massive housing program which will deal with the crisis that exists all over this country. He understands that in the midst of massive income and wealth inequality, maybe it's time for the billionaire class to start paying their fair share of taxes. And by the way, he is running against the guy who doesn't believe that climate change is real, while every scientist in the world tells us the future of the planet depends upon us acting aggressively to cut carbon emissions. So I think maybe if we start focusing on his record, start focusing on what he is trying to do, not only is he going to win, I think he has a chance to win very, very in a big way, because working class people in this country are hurting. They want specific ideas as to how their lives are going to be improved.
So there you go. That's kind of a message on policy, policy and future. Speak to that, Mo, and Bernie's thoughts.
Well, first, voting is emotional, and you have to meet voters where they are. And it's one thing if you're going to say that Trump is an existential threat, but that is amorphous, that is abstract, that doesn't actually speak to voters where they are. And Senator Sanders was apt in his description of what needs to be done, talk about the president's record. But the problem here is the person who should be most fluent in the language of Joe Biden's record seemingly is not able to articulate it in a concise, cogent way, and that's Joe Biden. And the communication issue is a big issue. It's an issue for Democrats. It's an issue on the national stage. We're not questioning whether Joe Biden was a great president and was able to accomplish many things. We're questioning is whether he can articulate the vision for the next 4 years and also operate at optimum efficiency over the next 4 years. The problem presented by Republicans, and I think it's a fair question to ask, is whether Joe Biden can be the guy, not necessarily today, but in January of 2029, when his second term would come to an end. And they've crystallized around that issue, fair or unfair. And Joe Biden, at least on the debate stage that night, could not return fire in the sense of rhetorical bombs quick enough and articulated clearly enough for people to understand and wrap their arms around, because much of presidential campaigning is retail politics. You got to go to the people where they are and meet them and their needs right where they are. And I don't know if Joe Biden could do what Bernie Sanders did in that 2-minute clip.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought, well, there it is. There's a guy who can really do it. And sadly, the guy, as you say, the guy who's charged with that responsibility just cannot. Eric says, it seems people are saying we'll lose if we drop Biden, and people are saying we'll lose if we keep Biden. It's making me terrified that we don't have a unified party. We certainly don't have a unified party. Now, Mo was making that point before that, you've lost the party right now. That doesn't mean you can't get the party back. Nutritional Liz, I saw that Biden says he's ready to get back on the campaign, unfortunately, she says. Trump is running with the Viktor Orban playbook. That is not wrong, Vilma's point. I mean, he even met with Viktor Orban, which is just it's a scary thought. And then finally, Spiny says they used that ageism crap with Bernie when he was running for president. That's a good point. I'd forgotten it, actually, Mo. You know what I mean? They tried to ding Bernie for his age. But Bernie was one of the most vital, energetic people I'd ever seen campaign. He continues to be.
Well, let me take you behind the scenes and understand what parties are. Parties are about the party. They're not about the person. They're not about the candidate. Bernie Sanders, he is a registered independent. Even right now, as a senator, he is an independent. He caucuses with the Democrats, but he's not a Democrat. That is significant, if only because the only time he was a Democrat in as far as party registration was when he was running for president. He was viewed as an outsider. He was a usurper. He was sojourning in the Democratic Party. Why would someone do that? Well, if you register as a member of that party, then you can be a part of the party debates. You get campaign polling. You get a DNC data, voter data. You also get money from the party. That's why it's alluring, but that doesn't mean that the party's going to embrace you. And I think that's part of the reason, I should say the predominant reason, why Bernie Sanders was not more appreciated in running against Hillary Clinton or anyone else. And I try to tell people, these are private corporations. They're not running public elections. They are for the purpose of their own benefit. And you're seeing that right now, going back to Joe Biden, where originally they changed the primary schedule. They discouraged other people from jumping in the race. And now they're saying, okay, well, the party winds are blowing in a different direction, Joe, so we may have to go in a different direction. The party will always be about the party, not the person or the candidate. So yes, it may have been unfair what was done to Bernie Sanders, but I understand it because Bernie Sanders was trying to use the party, and the party said, no, that's okay. We'll go with Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or whomever.
Such a great take. And it reminds us that the same party that is now calling for Biden to step back bent over backward to see to it that he would be the nominee. Wow, what a great take. As we let you go, I want you to see this. Mars says, KFI is great since no KGO. What time is Mo on? He wants to know.
Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We have fun. We try to laugh as much as possible, and I try to provide some context, history, and analysis. I don't try to tell people who to vote for because I don't want people trying to tell me who to vote for. But I do want you to go to the polls a little bit more informed than when you first tuned in.
Great stuff. Love your show. Love what you do. Love your mind. And I love that you made time for us today. So,
of course.
Thank you, Mo. I want to see more of you on this show. I really appreciate you ducking in, and you'll pick up some listeners from my audience too. So, Mo Kelly, everybody.
Anytime, my brother.
Yeah. Thank you, Mo. Appreciate it. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.